Over 200 products carry his name: steaks, water, towers, a university, more than most luxury brands ever launch. Yet he owns almost none of them. The man who built a billion-dollar brand started in his father's real estate business, hammering nails and collecting rent. But here's the twist. He didn't build it by building. He built it by selling the name. Picture this. A developer raises money for a skyscraper. More than a third of every dollar goes to a licensing fee, a cut larger than many developers' profits. The name goes on the building. The risk stays with the investors. That's the model, and it almost didn't happen. Before licensing turned things around, the hotel business lost tens of millions, a near collapse saved by branding. So how did Donald Trump turn his name into a billion-dollar licensing empire without even owning the assets? The answer is surprising. It's not about real estate, it's about selling the name. And the same trait that built the empire would become the flaw that nearly destroyed it. Donald Trump began his career in his father's real estate business, learning the ropes of property development. To understand selling the name, you have to look past the surface. The same pattern shows up again and again, and its effects compound the longer it runs. But how did he pivot from bricks and mortar to a brand worth billions? Picture this. A developer has a prime Manhattan site but no prestige. He needs a name that screams success. Trump offers his. For a fee, a big one. More than a third of every dollar raised for the project goes straight to Trump's licensing fee, a cut larger than many developers' entire profit margin. He doesn't build a single brick. He doesn't manage a single lease. He just lends the name. And the name works. Buyers pay a premium for the Trump label. Soon, that label appears on over 200 trademarked products, more than most luxury brands ever achieve. Steaks, water, ties, even a board game. Each deal requires no capital, no risk, just the right to use 3 syllables. But here, why would a developer hand over millions for a name, especially when they're the ones putting up the capital, the labor, the risk? Because the name itself became the asset. Donald Trump didn't need to own a building to profit from it. He simply licensed his brand, and developers paid him a cut of the funding they raised, more than a third of every dollar, in some deals. That's a staggering slice, larger than many developers' own profit margins, but they paid it anyway. Why? Because the Trump name attracted investors, buyers, and tenants who believed it meant success. It was a shortcut to credibility. Before this strategy took hold, Trump had lost tens of millions in the hotel business, a near collapse that could have ended his career. Licensing turned things around. He didn't have to build or finance, he just had to lend his name. And he lent it widely, at least 50 licensing or management deals, spanning real estate, hospitality, and consumer goods. Each deal was a new revenue stream with almost no overhead. The name became a machine. But how did this strategy turn into a billion-dollar empire? What was the deal that saved Trump's finances? Tens of millions lost. A near collapse that would have buried most developers. But Trump had one asset the banks couldn't seize: his name. He stopped building, started selling. A licensing deal meant he put his brand on a building he didn't own and took a cut of the funding. More than a third of every dollar raised went straight to him. No construction risk, no debt, just a signature. Then came The Apprentice, a reality show that turned his boardroom into a stage. The cameras didn't just make him famous, they made the brand feel real. Every week, millions watched him play the tycoon. And when the show aired, the licensing machine roared back to life. Hotels, steaks, water, suits. The Trump name appeared on everything, and the checks kept coming. But here's the question that lingers. How much of his success was real, and how much was just branding? The casinos collapsed, the hotels bled cash, yet the name kept growing. Steaks, vodka, a university, mattresses, even a board game. He did not manufacture a single one. He simply sold permission to use the 3 syllables. But here is the contradiction. Each failure should have diluted the brand. Instead, the brand detached itself from the businesses. The bankruptcies became footnotes. The name remained a shortcut to luxury. Developers still paid for it. Consumers still bought it. Therefore, the brand became its own asset, immune to the fate of any single tower or casino. How? The answer lies in what the name actually promised. Not quality, not stability, but status. And status does not require ownership. It requires perception. Trump understood that a name could be worth more than the thing it was attached to. So he kept licensing, kept collecting fees, kept the brand alive while the businesses around it burned. What was the secret to making his name worth more than the businesses themselves? Could the Trump empire exist without the name? The model suggests no. Trump didn't own the building, he licensed the name. Developers handed over more than a third of their funding just for that permission, a cut larger than many developers' profits. Therefore, the brand became the asset. 50 licensing or management deals followed, spanning real estate, hospitality, and consumer goods. Each deal proved the same thing. The name was worth more than the concrete. But that value was built on a fragile foundation. The hotels had lost tens of millions, a near collapse saved by branding. Yet the brand itself had no factory, no inventory, no employees. It was just a promise. Over 200 trademarked products carried the name, more than most luxury brands. But a promise only holds as long as people believe. So the question becomes, if the name is the empire, what happens when the name is no longer trusted? What does this mean for the future of business and branding? So how did Donald Trump turn his name into a billion-dollar licensing empire without owning the assets? He didn't build towers. He built a brand. The secret was simple: sell the name, not the building. Trump licensed his surname to developers, hotels, and consumer goods, over 200 products in total. He collected a fee up front, then walked away. The developer took the risk. Trump took the cut. More than a third of every dollar raised for a project went straight to his licensing fee, a cut larger than most developers' profits. Before this model, Trump had lost tens of millions in the hotel business, a near collapse. But licensing flipped the equation. He no longer needed to own concrete and steel. He just needed to own the perception. 50 licensing or management deals spanned real estate, hospitality, and consumer goods. He earned significant revenue from products he never manufactured, buildings he never financed. The lesson: in an economy built on leverage, the most valuable asset isn't what you own, it's what people believe you own. Trump turned a family surname into intellectual property, then rented it out. He proved that perception can be capital, but that same perception is fragile. When the brand cracks, the empire cracks with it. Next time, we'll reveal how one man turned a single patent into a monopoly that strangled an entire industry without ever building a factory. This is the monopoly matrix, where business meets power.